Thank you everyone for joining us today. We will be discussing white-tailed deer, Odocoilus virginianus, and different capture methods in bottomland hardwood forests, and which we found to be the best method. In states like Florida that have bottomland hardwood forests, the implementation of capture methods for white-tailed deer face challenges associated with each type of method. We will be discussing each capture method and their pros and cons. The reason these habitats pose difficulties are because these forests are prone to flooding, which can make it challenging to access study sites and ensure the animals' welfare. The dense canopy and understory also hinder visibility and movement, making it difficult to locate and capture these animals. The wildlife have also adapted to the flooded environments and may have specific behaviors and movements associated with the changing water levels.
The first capture method we'll talk about today is darting. This capture technique involves implementing a sit and wait method to sedate deer prior to collecting data. A dart containing a sleep inducing drug and a transmitter is shot from a CO2 powered gun or a blowgun into the muscle of the animal, causing it to fall asleep within 5 to 15 minutes. After a short wait time to ensure sedation, a radiotelemetry device is used to locate the dart so that the researchers can collect the data necessary from the deer. The pros of this method are that often considered as one of the most effective ways to capture white-tailed deer. It causes minimal disturbance to white-tailed deer, lower risk of injury for the animal and the researcher, and due to the cautious nature of the deer, this method allows for the researcher to discreetly target the animal. The cons of this method is that the dart typically spooks the deer, allowing them to travel long distances, which decreases the chances of finding the individual. Immobilization can cause great stress, which leads to injury and sometimes even death. Unfound deer after immobilization are at higher risk of drowning, bloat, entanglement, and predation, and equipment like drugs, dart guns, batteries, CO2s can be costly.
The next capture method we will be discussing is the drop net. The drop net is suspended above the experimental unit supported by a system of ropes and pulleys. Once triggered, the drop net is released quickly and captures the animal or animals. The pros associated with this method include its selective trapping capabilities, which means that it can be more species specific. The scalability as well is a pro. Depending on the experimental unit size, the net can be adjusted to cover a larger area or a more finely tuned one. Now, the cons associated with it include the risk of injury or mortality for the animals, i.e., entanglement. It is also a labor intensive method, which leaves room for researcher error in the setup.
The final method we'll go over today is the netted clover trap. This capture method involves using a large steel pipe frame surrounded by netting that can be placed inside discrete locations with a bait placed inside. When the deer enters the trap, they trigger a trip string that drops a door behind the animal. When the researcher checks the trap, sedative drugs may be used to induce a sleep like state to collect the necessary data. The pros of this method are that this is a non invasive method that aims to reduce the amount of stress put on the animal. Clover traps allow deer to readily enter the trap because they can see through the trap. This method can reduce injury because the net can absorb shock from abrupt movements. The netted trap is also lighter and more portable, which allows for easy carry and setup in heavy cover environments. The cons of this method are that the net leaves them vulnerable to predation. Deer can be easily excited by disturbances due to the see-through net. Baited traps also risk the possibility of trapping unwanted animals from the study, which could also be expensive. Deer are also cautious of environmental abnormalities, leading to avoidance of traps. After researching these different trapping methods, we have concluded that the netted clover trap is the most effective method for capturing white-tailed deer in bottomland hardwood forest. Due to the high risk of predation, drowning, bloat, and entanglement associated with capture methods in this habitat, the clover trap provides the safest and least stressful method for capturing white-tailed deer. The camouflage environment of bottom hardwood provides the adequate cover to hide the trap from the deer. It also reduces hunting pressure, which increases the odds of capturing deer in pressured environments, which are ultimately where we need the data from the most.